Happy Thursday morning and welcome to Mission Creek Regional Park, specifically the Hall Road Pond. Before we begin our program, I would like to acknowledge that we are blessed to be living and working on the traditional and unceded territory of the Okanagan Syilx First Nations people. Kelly's gonna scan over because we have some special creatures we want to show you right away. My name is Nicole and I'm a park interpreter with the Regional District. And one of the best parts of my job is taking people out to view the species and places that we have. Right now in front of us, we have two types of ducks. We have our mallards, and right swimming forward towards us right now are some gorgeous wood ducks. They must be one of the most gorgeous ducks we have. The male has that lovely, distinct pattern of colors, an orange beak, an iridescent green head, and a color-blocked body. The female is, as most ducks are, much plainer, but she has that white circle around her head and eye, and quite the haircut on top. They're a more elusive duck. They tend to not hang out with other duck species. They're also unique in that they can nest and perch in trees in the woods, and they also are really good at flying through trees. Their body shape, their wing shape, allows them to do that. So we jumped right into ducks today only because they're here right now. These are a very special animal. When I say ducks, what comes to mind for you? Most people, of course, recognize the mallard, and that's our duck, ever present. But there can actually be up to about 30 or so species in the Okanagan. It depends a lot on the time of the year. 15 of them can be found year-round, and then others will be found during migration. And right now it's spring migration, so we're very fortunate in that this is a time of year where you'll get to see species that you might otherwise know. And they're moving from south up to the north to raise their youngs. We have some very awesome ones too at the other end, and we're going to slowly walk that way. We don't want to frighten them. Ducks are generally divided into two groups. There are dabbling ducks and diving ducks. From a science perspective, it makes sense. If you look at this pond right now, there are deep sections, there are shallower sections on the edge. So there's different kinds of foods. So if you have a whole bunch of ducks, it makes sense that some will eat and feed in other places that others own. We call that resource partitioning, but basically is everyone gets a stab at something else in the lake. Diving ducks dive under the water, and they're quickly and suddenly disappearing, and they scoop food from down lower in the water. And we're heading towards some diving ducks right now. We also have a Canada goose coming to check us out. Sorry buddy, no food today. The diving ducks, I'm just looking at some over there. They dive deep and they tend to be larger and stronger, and they have really big webbed feet attached to generally shorter legs near the backs of their bodies. And this allows them to propel through the water more efficiently. Because of their size though, they need more of a runway to get out of the water. Much like you might have seen loons in the past, where it seems like they have a challenge getting out of the water, and they're flapping and fapping and basically running. It's quite comical. Oh, we have a red-winged blackbird coming to defend his territory too. The dabblers are the funny ones. They're the ones where you see them rock their heads into the water and stick their bums up in the air. You can't help but giggle when you see that. So we're creeping up here onto some ducks I'd love to show you.
I'll just let someone know that we're at the fishing pond by Hall Road in Mission Creek.
Yes, it is the Hall Road Pond. Normally we stock this lake, the small pond, with trout. Unfortunately this year that won't be happening. But stay tuned for announcements hopefully for next year. All right, that's a good question, thank you. Yes, we're at the Hall Road Pond off Kalo Road. So you go a bit into the lower southeast of Kelowna. Can anyone see those? We have lots of taxidermy ducks with us today, and we do not have these, so I'm super excited to see them. There are males and females. I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 5 pair. They have almost comical shaped heads, and then a black body, except their flanks are sort of a grayishy white. And they have a bit of a paintbrush swoop, a little white tick on the upside. So these are ring-necked ducks. And I'm hoping some of you can see they have basically 2 little rings around their bill. These are diving ducks. Clearly you can see the habit of diving down. Diving ducks are typically in the deeper sections, and the dabblers in the shallower sections. These guys just want to move away from us, so they're going to the other side. Whereas this goose is quite entranced with this camera. Oh, they're getting a little more comfortable and moving over here. Oh, and there's also someone walking. So these are ring-neck ducks, a small flock of them. I'm really excited to see them here today. They're chatting to each other. Little tiny, almost not coos, but little tiny talking to each other. Little peeps, almost sound like chicks. Oh, there's a louder bark. Oh, they're getting into their pairs. Now, it's often said that ducks mate for life. Some do, but generally speaking, it's one mate a year. And if they do mate, there's a high divorce rate. So it's not a long-term relationship for the most part for ducks. Of course, it'll depend on the type of duck too. But this is definitely mating season, so even though they're in a flock, they're still paired off. They're very anxious for us to move away, I think, Kelly.
Yeah. Okay, let's give them some space.
Yeah, and the goose is going to join us. We're going to climb up this little hill.
Great.
Okay, very quickly, some of the tools of the trade. Because it is spring migration, this is a great time to get out and learn birding. It can be really daunting at first, and I know that. I'm learning as we go as well. But you don't need much to get going. Basically, you need yourself and a body of water. It helps to know a little bit, like if you're looking for ducks, where's a good place to find ducks? Birds of prey, that sort of thing. But things that might help you are there's a lot of field guides out. There are so many. It's best to find one that is local. It saves going through a whole bunch of other pages. But these are both good. We have other ones too. This is Western North America, so that's quite specific as well. If you can get a pair of binoculars, that's fantastic too. You don't have to start off by spending a whole lot of money, but it might be a good start to get a pair. If you don't want to buy books, there's lots of great apps online too, and those are lovely to have. But basically, something to help you look at animals and something to help you ID. That's a good start. There's groups in town who can also help you with birding. All right, we're gonna look at some of our creatures. So we're gonna start now, back to the original plan, is we're gonna go into some of our dabbling ducks. These are the very common, of course, mallards. There's a male and a female, and I'm wondering if any of the littles on today know which ones are male, and which one's female. The clue, of course, being that typically females are much more plain. And that's probably an evolutionary trait to help them camouflage and protect their eggs when they're on them, or to protect their babies. So this one here is the male. He has a bright green iridescent head. And the female, she's much more plain brown, and she has a little bit of blue on that feather there. Or that wing, I'm sorry.
Ooh, someone got the right answer.
Oh, okay.
5-year-old There we go.
Okay, wonderful. Now this is a much smaller common around that here. This bird is also here year-round. This is called it's a teal, but this is the green-winged teal. So you can see the green right there. And it has the brown head with the very distinct green stripe behind the eye. And just for perspective, to tell you how small this is my hand, and I can cup its flank with my hand very easily. So it's a very small duck. And again, these are dabblers, so they tip their heads in, bum up, legs usually shot up in the air. It's quite fun. And they're grabbing all sorts of food in there, green plant food, insects. They'll eat seeds and berries as well, but even for size compared to a mallard. So these two are here all the time. One of the first dabbling ducks to return in the spring is the northern pintail. This here, Kelly, is our northern pintail. And it's just a beautiful bird. You can get right up close there. It has the very long tail on it. It's a really pretty bird. Another ones that we get here are the ruffleheads. They are our smallest dabbling duck. This is a female. The males have a really roundish head with a distinct white top on it. They're very compact. The female has this here instead. And again, for size perspective, there's my hand. So small. Very tiny, short beak. She's just a beautiful specimen. So that's the bufflehead. All right, another species that we get that comes in is the Goldeneye. We have two, yes, these are spectacular. We have two Goldeneye species that you'll see. We have the common Goldeneye and the Barrow's Goldeneye. This is a common Goldeneye. So they both have that very distinct yellow eye. They're white at the back with some black on the top. The Barrow's Goldeneye will have a black flank right here. And then also its pattern in the wings for the Barrow is more like piano keys almost, the white keys of a piano. And the circle here on the common in a Barrow's Goldeneye would be a bit more stretched out. And we recently saw those in Glenmore along McKinley Road there. And they're just spectacular looking birds. Quite large rounded heads. This one's a bit smaller. When I look at them generally I think quite big, but a medium size. Another popular bird that we get are the Mergansers. We have hooded Mergansers and common Mergansers. Both specimens I have here are the common Merganser. So this is a male common Merganser. Both Mergansers, and this is really cool, have really long, narrow, sharp pointed beaks. And look at that serrated edge.
That is so cool.
That's amazing, right? Does anyone want to guess what that serrated edge might be for a duck that dives under the water to catch some squiggly type of food? It's perfect for grabbing something. It is a fisher. These guys like to catch minnows and other creatures like that. And so this serrated edge lets them grab onto something that would otherwise be very slippery before they swallow it. So they have the males anyways, have a primarily white body with some black on top, but a very distinct black head, long pointy red beak. And this is, I'll bring the female out. Okay. These are often, because they're quite large, when you see them on the lake, could easily be mistaken for a loon. And this is the female. Again, there's that serrated edge, red eye, and the most awesome hairdo. Some might say they have bad hair days. You see it stick straight up and it's all spiky, but I think it's awesome. A little partial to the reddish hair, of course. But that's the female common merganser. I have two more that I'd like to show you. They're both, one's a very brief show because we actually had one here today. Is the male duck, a male wood duck, sorry. He's hanging out here. That way we can probably get a lot closer to see some of its features. So the very distinct coloring on this bill, the eye, the very fancy hood or hat on it, with these long little feathers at the back, but just a colorful bird all around. Such a gorgeous design. Now I have one duck that I would like to share with you, and I know that we always have some birders on here, and I hope they can actually help me identify it. It's not a great specimen. I think I know what type of bird it is. However, if someone online cares to chime in, that would be appreciated. I'm just going to bring it up here. Its head is quite wobbly. It's definitely an older bird, and the mount, in other words the way it was displayed and taken care of, isn't fantastic. Might be mostly age too. But some of the things I've noticed is that its bill, which is long and quite flat, is painted a grayishy blue, as are its legs. It's been given red eyes. It's a medium-sized duck. It's got a very comical shape to its head. Its coloring is also brown, so I suspect whichever one it is a female. I'm guessing a canvasback, but if anyone on there can chime in, and we can certainly look at features if you'd like to see more of that. It's got a very distinct head shape. I'll probably just shelve that there, and if anybody does want to, they might be furtively going through some pages of a book. I think canvasback. So we have two redhead type ducks. There's the actual redhead, and then there's a canvasback. And the canvasback does have a very distinct, almost a ski slope type of beak off its head, which this has, whereas the redhead is a very compact, quite attractive, smaller bird. These guys have really nice long legs too. All right. So if anyone wants to jump in, they totally can. I would love that. Just to talk about what's upcoming in our programs, tomorrow is Friday, being a short week. It's easy to lose track of time, but tomorrow's Friday, and so we'll have a program at 10:30, and then that's evergreen identification. So that one's very cool. So it'll be a bit of a walk in the forest and looking at signature trees that you find in our forests and learning how to identify them, which is really valuable if there's parents out there for kids to know. They tend to know all the different McDonald's signs and A&W signs and Starbucks signs, but we don't know the trees in our own backyard. So it's going to be a really quick fun lesson on that. And then on Saturday at 1 p.m, another really cool thing, we're going to do an owl pellet dissection. So might sound a little gross, but it's terribly interesting to pull one of those apart and discover what's hidden inside. So do join us again Friday at 10:30 and Saturday at 11. Thank you very much for joining me at the Hall Road Pond at Mission Creek Regional Park. My name's Nicole, and I'll see you next week.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Kelly.